Picture the kind of person who joins a cult. You're probably picturing someone broken, gullible, lonely in a way you're not, easy to fool. Almost everything about that picture is wrong, and quietly believing it is exactly what leaves you exposed. Because the people who actually get pulled in are overwhelmingly ordinary, smart, stable, employed. People who were completely sure it could never be them, right up until it was. We actually know this because someone counted. Starting in the mid-1970s, sociologist Eileen Barker spent close to 7 years studying who really joined one of the most notorious groups of the era, the Unification Church, the so-called Moonies. The going assumption was the wounded and the lost. She mostly found the opposite: people from stable homes, decent jobs, no more troubled than the neighbors who never joined. And here's the number that broke the whole brainwashing story. Of everyone who came to a recruitment weekend, the supposedly hypnotic ones, about 9 in 10 walked away and never joined. Most who did join left on their own within 2 years. Walk away 9 times out of 10, leave on your own. That's not mind control. There's no magic here, and that's the unsettling part. What there is a sequence. Half a dozen completely ordinary human pulls: loneliness, kindness, a small yes, aimed at you in a deliberate order. And every one of those pulls has already worked on you in smaller ways for smaller stakes, which is the only reason the big version works at all. So I'm going to walk you down the exact route, the 6 steps that turn a curious stranger into a true believer, and end on the single tell that separates a warm community from a trap. Watch the count climb. That climb is the whole trick. Step 1 isn't a belief, it's a moment. Recruitment almost never lands on a happy, settled life. It lands on a gap. A move to a city where you know no one. A breakup. A death. A graduation into nothing in particular. The old life has loosened, and nothing has filled the space yet. When Barker's contemporaries, John Lofland and Rodney Stark, tracked an early branch of that same church, person by person, looking for what its converts actually had in common, it wasn't a defect they shared. It was a moment. They tended to meet the group at a turning point when their lives were already in flux and the old certainties had loosened. That's the whole of step 1. They didn't have to do anything but find you between chapters. 1 step in, and nothing strange has happened yet. Step 2 is where the warmth starts, and it is genuinely lovely, which is the point. You walk in and you're flooded. Total attention. Real interest in your day. A dozen people who seem delighted you exist and somehow already feel like old friends. These groups had a name for this, and it didn't come from their critics. It came from inside the church itself in the 70s. They called it love bombing, and remember what Lofland and Stark actually found. The bond comes first, the belief comes second. You are not argued in, you are befriended in. By the time the strange ideas show up, they're your new friend's ideas, and pushing back doesn't feel like disagreeing. It feels like betraying people who finally saw you. 2 steps in. Step 3 you've met before. Last video, in fact, at a checkout screen. Nobody opens with "devote your life." They open with something that costs almost nothing. Just come to dinner, just 1 free weekend. Just help carry the chairs. And once you've said a small yes, you quietly become a person who says yes to this. We saw the proof of how strong that is. In 1966, Freedman Fraser asked homeowners to put a big ugly sign on their lawn. Asked cold, 17% agreed. Asked something tiny first, then the big sign 2 weeks later, 76% said yes. Same lever, aimed at a person instead of a purchase. Each yes is just slightly bigger than the last, and not one of them ever feels like the moment you decided anything. 3 steps in, and she still thinks she's just made friends. Step 4 flips your own logic against you. The price of belonging starts to climb. Money, time, a rule that's a little odd, a confession that's a little raw. And the strange thing is, the more it costs you, the more you want it. There's a clean experiment for this. In 1959, Aronson Mills had 63 women go through an initiation to join a discussion group. For some, it was easy. For others, it was deliberately embarrassing. Then everyone listened to the same group, which had been made as dull and pointless as possible. The women who'd suffered the embarrassing version rated that same boring group as noticeably more interesting and worthwhile. Nothing about the group changed, only what it had cost them to get in. Your mind can't comfortably hold "I gave up so much for this" next to "this isn't worth much," so it quietly upgrades the group. The more it takes from you, the more real it has to be. 4 steps in. Step 5 is the quiet one, and it almost never feels like a wall going up. It feels like the rest of the world slowly losing the plot.
They're the only ones who
Old
understand.
friends just don't get it now. Family isn't on the journey. The psychiatrist Robert Lifton studied this in people who'd been put through real thought reform in communist China, Westerners and Chinese alike, and named 2 of its pieces: milieu control, quietly sealing off the outside, and loading the language, where a big doubt gets a small insider phrase that ends the conversation before it starts. And once the group is the only voice left in the room, something measurable happens to your own judgment. Picture a simple test, lines on a card, an answer so obvious a child gets it right. But everyone around you, out loud, confidently gives the wrong one. Before I tell you, guess. What fraction of people will deny their own eyes and go along at least once? Hold a number. About 3/4. In Solomon Asch's experiments, roughly 75% of people caved to an answer they could plainly see was wrong. At least once. On their own, people got it right over 99% of the time. That's a single wrong line, with strangers, for 30 seconds. Now make the group your entire world, for months, on questions that have no obvious right answer at all. Your private doubts don't get argued away. They just get very, very quiet. 5 steps in. Which leaves the last step. And it's the one that needs no trick at all, because the first 5 already built it.
Who am I without
By now, leaving doesn't cost a belief. It costs every friend you have, the months and the money you poured in, and the one unbearable thought that you were wrong about all of it, the whole time. It's the same sunk cost pull that keeps you in a bad movie because you paid for the ticket, except here the ticket was a year of your life and everyone in it. And notice what's missing. Nobody's locking a door. They never had to. They just arrange things, one ordinary step at a time, so that on the other side of the door there's nothing left. That's the 6th step, and the only one she never saw happen. That's the whole route. 6 steps, and look closely, because not one of them is mind control. Loneliness, kindness, a small yes, a cost you justify, a crowd you trust, a door not worth opening. Every single one is a normal human pull, just aimed and stacked and pointed at one person. Let me step out of the research for a second. If part of you just thought, sure, but I'd see it coming, sit with this. That exact thought, it could never be me, is what most of the people it happened to would have told you too the week before they walked in. Being sure you're immune isn't the lock, it's the doorway. Let me step back in. So here's the tell I promised, and it is not the belief. Nearly every group has its strange ideas. Weird beliefs are not the warning sign. Plenty of harmless communities have them. The warning is in the method. A healthy group can survive 2 things a coercive one cannot: your hard questions and your other relationships. A good community lets you keep your family, your doubts, and your exit. If something love bombs you fast, rushes your commitment, and slowly needs you to choose it over everyone who knew you before, that is the shape of the trap, whatever it happens to believe. So when anything, a group, a job, a relationship, starts to glow a little too warm, a little too fast, run 4 quiet questions. Am I being rushed? Am I being pulled away from the people who knew me before? Can I ask a hard question without it costing me? And could I leave on a Tuesday and still have a life? You don't have to suspect every kind stranger. Most warmth is just warmth. You only have to keep 1 foot outside the room. And if you ever decide it's too late for someone you love, go back to Barker's other number. Most people who walk in, walk back out. The pull is strong. It is not a life sentence. So one honest look at your own life before you go. What's been quietly asking you for one more small yes? And which of the 6 would actually work on you? Because none of them is the answer almost everyone gives, right up until step 1. If this made an ordinary kind of warmth look different tonight, subscribe. It genuinely helps. Next time, the very same machinery, polished, legal, and aimed straight at your wallet. The psychology of advertising.